And now it's just sort of plodding around out there. Let's go right over to the right-hand side now, and I've got to be a bit careful because there's a pile of trees over there and a lot of roots and really awkward areas where the fish could snag up, but I think I've got it under control, I hope so. The fish is just outside the rod now. It's probably about 10 yards out. There it is. It's a common.
Come on, boy. Oh, that's a cracking fish.
Oh, it is.
Look at the colours on that.
This one just doesn't want to give up.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's it. Nice one. Oh, yes.
Beautiful. Look at that.
Oh, look at the colours on that.
Real chestnut common.
Oh, he's going to look a peach in the sun.
That is absolutely stunning, isn't it?
That's
absolutely stunning.
That's a beautiful common.
It's perfect, actually.
The good thing is about this, Matt, that the rig you've done is so simple. You don't have to be a long stay carp angler bivvying up for weeks to use it and catch fish like this. You could be pole fishing, float fishing, and just have like a sleeper rod out with this setup on at the side, couldn't you?
Well, they're all off-the-shelf components, you know. But as you can see, they work. And I've caught lots of carp, Kev, as you have, and in the end, you come to the point of appreciating each carp, and this, to me, is the perfect carp, really.
Any carp angler, any angler worth their salt is just going to love catching a fish like that, isn't it?
There we go. So easy to return the fish in these things, and it's ready to swim off. Well, one of the nice things about Bluebell Lakes, like many carp fisheries around the country, is there aren't just carp in the lake. So I've taken a break from the carp fishing and I'm actually going to try some fishing for bream. What I'm going to use him for bait? Well, my favourite ground bait, without a doubt, is this stuff here. Crunchy fish and sweet pepper. And I've mixed it with no water at all. What I've actually used is this stuff. It's M&M, molasses and maple. And what I've done is I've mixed that ground bait with about half a bottle of this liquid, and it's damp enough to fish in the feeder. And the smell is absolutely exquisite. At least it is if you're a fish. What are the baits will we be using in the feeder? Well, I've got my old favourite red maggots. I've got some mini halibut pellets, and I've also got some red hot chili hemp. And one thing you've got to remember when you fish for bream and tench on these places is that these fish have seen loads of carp bait. So one of the best things that you can use for bream is fishy stuff. Pellets and pellet ground bait are absolutely supreme. Well, the rod that I'm going to be using today is this one. This is called the All-Rounder. It's a very versatile rod. It comes with lots of sections that you can interchange. And in this configuration, I'm using it as a feeder rod at 13 feet. It's ideal in this setup for bream, but of course you need the right terminal rig. So here's my rig, little cage feeder, and quite a neat little helicopter rig that I've set up. Basically, I've got a fox braid stop, a little gap, always have a little gap on a helicopter rig so that the rig can rotate, a little oval buffer bead, mini rig swivel with the hook length tied to it, another little bead, and then threaded onto the main line, a short section of 0.7mm silicone rubber, and then the feeder tied on the end. Now the hook link, as you can see, is tied onto the mini rig swivel, and that rotates during flight around the main line and it doesn't tangle. So this is a rig basically that fishes like a paternoster, but it's fish safe. It's got a sliding rig stop here, so if I crack the rig off, the whole arrangement will come apart and the fish won't get stuck. It's a really good rig. Now let me show you how to fill the feeder. First thing you've got to do, get into the habit of baiting the hook first, especially if you're using maggots. Otherwise, all the maggots will escape by the time you put your hook bait on. So I'm going to use a couple of red maggots. If I get some nuisance fish, then I'll switch to corn and maggot probably. Basically, cage feeder, dead simple, fairly soft, dry-ish ground bait. I put a plug in the bottom, sprinkling a little bit of hemp, sprinkling a little bit of pellet, a few red maggots, and then a plug on the top. And there's a nice little feeder load of bait ready to go. Absolutely perfect. Very important in feeder fishing that you fish accurately. I'm lining up on a tree on the far bank and I'm casting with a nice, comfortable lob. And I'm 40 to 50 metres out. Lovely there. Well, it's a cracking setup this. I'm not used to this level of luxury. I've got everything to hand, everything's part of the chair. I've even got a couple of armrests. Feeder's touched down, so I'll just tension the tip up. You want a gentle curve in it. You don't want it too heavily bent and you don't want it dead straight either. The idea is that you can see pull round bites, but you can also see drop back bites. Either means that basically a fish has got the bait. You can get line bites off bream, but with a bit of practice you get to recognise those. What tends to happen is they're a little bit more rhythmic and the tip pulls round and drops back immediately into the same position, whereas a proper bite tends to pull the tip right round or drop it completely slack. Now, as far as casting is concerned, the idea is to build up bait as accurately as possible. I'm fishing with the line on the clip so I can hit the same spot every single time. And initially I'll probably make the first half a dozen casts literally every 2 minutes. Then I'll drop back to 5-minute intervals for another half a dozen casts. And eventually, when I've got a bit of bait out there, I'll be casting about every 10 to 15 minutes until, of course, the fish arrive. And let's just hope that I'm casting very, very regularly because I'm literally winding them in. Well, that was a bite almost straight away on maggot. I was a little bit worried about what might happen fishing maggot because there's a lot of roach in here. And not that I mind catching roach incidentally, but in order to get through to the bream, I might have to switch to something like corn on the hook. That's okay, I've got some corn with me, I can do that. And there it is, nice little roach, lovely little fish. Well, we'll slip him back. I'll try another chuck on maggot. If that doesn't work, I'll switch over to a bigger hook bait, try and avoid these chaps. Yes. Now, that's not a roach. That feels like the target species. I've just had a few little knocks and bumps, line bites really, caused by the bream just brushing into the line. I'm sure this is a bream. Nice steady old thump. I really like this rod actually, this all-rounder. It casts very well at distance, but as you can see, it bends nicely into the fish as well. I've got a 4-pound hook link on here, fluorocarbon one, and you've just got the nice compromise between a mellow action and enough beef just to turn the fish. It's a very nice blank. And I've got the fish now in front of me. There's 1 or 2 snags down there. I'd be worried if it was a carp, but with it being a bream, it should come over them. Well, there's a classic sight for you. A feeder, a piece of corn, and a great big bronze bream. That's brilliant. And there it is. You can see here these white bumps on the bream's head. These are what we call spawning tubercles. Over a period of time before spawning, they build up these sort of knobbly humps. But they're beautiful fish to look at. And there it is. There's no other fish quite like this. It's difficult to mistake a bream for anything else. It's got this huge extended anal fin, very, very deep body, probably about half of its length in depth, and beautiful bronzy gold coloration. They're super fish. Well, it's a very nice fish caught on my helicopter feeder rig. Just pop the hook out. The thing that's attracted this fish is the ground bait that's been glugged in that M&M. When you've got a water with numbers of bream in, you put some of that in a feeder and just keep plopping it out there and you'll catch them in the end. We're just going to put this fish back, and there he goes. Do you know, they're so deep that they have to swim on their sides until they get over the ledge. Fantastic. Just had another little pull round, little gentle pull round, looked like a line bite. I'm hoping it's going to blow in a minute, this one.